New type of loss really for you, lack of competitiveness and so. I guess having had 2 weeks to think about it, why do you think you?
Well, like I said, I think you know, apart from, like I said, the feelings you have, it's about, well, how do I can't, you know, I can't give feelings as a feedback to players. I had to give them something, and you know, the stats show that we were very passive in the second half, even from a physical standpoint. We pride ourselves on being, you know, the fittest team, the most intense team in the comp, and you know, our physical stats nosedived at the start of the second half. So I just feel we went out there with the kind of attitude of, you know, we'll weather a bit of a storm and then finish strong and the game's over and done with, because we were so dominant in the first half. And, you know, in elite sport, you can't do that. You drop 1 or 2% and you're dropping off a cliff. You're not just, you know, your performance doesn't drop a little bit, you drop, you know. And, you know, Brighton obviously were hurting from the first half. They had a point to prove. They're at home. The crowd will get behind them, all those kind of things. And I just don't think we handled it well. And we stopped doing the things that fundamentally are, you know, the foundation of our football. And, you know, it's not me saying we weren't competitive or it looked like we didn't have any effort. There was data to back that up, that we, especially in that 20-minute spell, we just weren't running. You know, and if you're not running, then everything else becomes a consequence of that.
What's it feel like stewing on it last 2 months?
Wonderful, mate. Yeah, beautiful.
How have you dealt with that? Not so frustrating as just before international break, and you know you've got this long gap.
Yeah, look, it's hard, but you know what? It's not about me. So, you know, that's the first thing. You've got to separate yourself from that and just, you know, as this is not about me. It's about sort of what we're trying to do to make ourselves the football team we want to be. And I think what time does give you, and, you know, I'd like to think that even if it wasn't international break the next day, it gives you perspective. Like I said, you can't dismiss the first half. You can't just focus on the second half and that's your only feedback. You can't dismiss the 5 games we won before that either, you know. So it's all those kind of things. Time allows you to reflect a little bit better. And like I said, then it just gives you perspective to then look at, you know, how am I going to, one thing is to say, all right, I'm disappointed, I'm angry, whatever, their feelings, but how am I going to help the players so the next time that happens, we deal with it better. And, you know, like I said, you deal then with the facts of, you know, stuff that we think is important that we didn't do in the second half. But, you know, if it is about me, I was miserable for 9 days, mate.
And just finally, I mean, when you have a defeat like that, the man of that loss, an accusation that often comes whenever any team has something like that is a lack of leaders in the team, or can you mention? You obviously weren't missing your captain, to be fair, who's back now. But I presume you don't have any concerns about the leaders, or is that something that you want to see players grow? Yeah,
no, I do. I think, you know, part of the feedback is to the players is that, you know, if you're feeling that happening out there, then, you know, the best way to arrest that is individuals to take action, to know what to do. Now, but the challenge with that is because people, when they talk about leaders, they think, oh, well, it's the captain. But that's where you fall into the trap, because it might be the captain that's having a bad day. Leadership can be shown by the youngest player out there. I keep saying that. Every individual has the capacity to show leadership. You know, whether that's in a football field, in your workplace, wherever, you know, it could be the most inexperienced person that does an act that inspires others. You know, so leadership is in that moment taking ownership of something, and I think we didn't have anyone who did that through that time. So, you know, that is part of the discussion with the players, you know, because maybe they are waiting for, I don't know, Romero or somebody like that to do it. But if they're not doing it, well, you can't just stand by and let it happen. You know, if you're Mickey van der Ven, then you can do it. You know, if you're Brennan Johnson, then you can do it. You know, so that's got to be part of our growth as a team. You know, I still think, you know, as a group, there's still areas of kind of that sort of behaviour where, you know, we still need to grow, and sometimes you don't want to design it, and it's not great, but going through situations like that is how it's sort of laid bare, and then you can deal with it from there on.
As you said there, that previous collapses before your time were irrelevant. But there is this kind of perception about Tottenham as a club that they have this soft centre. It happens to them more often than other clubs. And your predecessor, as a kind of parting shot, infamously said, "You can change the manager, but this is going to keep happening at this club." I mean, is there anything in that, do you think? And it is part of your job still to sort of change the mentality?
Well, mate, if I accept that, what am I doing here, seriously? Like, if I accept that this is somehow, impossible to change, well, I'm really stealing the living. Like, seriously, why am I here? Like, I don't believe that, and I never have. So, and if I fail to do that, the failure's on me. It's got nothing to do with the club. It's on me, because I know that coming into it. I know that the club hasn't won anything for X amount of time. I know the tag on the club. I know all these things when I accept the position. So it's no good me coming in now and saying, well, yeah, I accept the position, but you know what? I can't do this. This is impossible. This club doesn't matter who the man. Well, I shouldn't have stepped into it. I made the decision to step into it, knowing all these things, the same thing I know. It's not a secret. It's not like it's only when you get in here, oh my God, I didn't know that. Jesus Christ, this club hasn't won anything for 14 years. Can you believe it? You accept that challenge. I accepted that challenge. So I can't sit up here now and complain that it's hard. Well, no, that's why I'm here. And it's up to me to change that. And if I don't change that, the failure's on me. It's on no one else, because I've accepted that. So, and the reason I don't think the past is irrelevant, because I can't change that. I can't do anything. I wasn't here. I wasn't part of it. And maybe it was impossible. I don't know. But where I sit here right now, I don't see it as impossible. I think it is achievable, and that's what I'm going to try and do with everything I have in my power to change.
Is it harder to change that intangible mentality, whatever it is, than change the style of play?
No, not necessarily. No, I think they're both equally challenging. In other places it's been more about the style of play. The mentality's been there, but the style of play, and that's still equally as challenging, because some clubs, don't want to change it, or don't feel comfortable changing the way they play, even though that's what they're seeking, because it's a lot more sort of risky to go this way. So I think where it is challenging, whether it's football or whether it's mentality, it's when it's existed for a long period of time, irrespective of what it is, and it might not even be football, or it might be something else. Anything that's existed for a long time is obviously difficult to change. It's very challenging, but like I said, you accept that challenge and you do what you can to change it.
We'll have one from Matt and then one from Gary.
Hello, Ange. When you say stats were down, running was down at the start of the second half in Brighton, can you give us any context on that? We don't have your powers of analysis and software and things like that, but how much?
Yeah, it's not that complicated, mate, because I'm not that sort of intrinsically involved in it, but it's fair to say that sort of our sheer volume of running probably dropped, 20 to 30% in that 20-minute period. Our high-speed running, our sprinting certainly dropped. Now, I saw that anecdotally, because like I said, I can tell because we're passive, right? So you can see when we're running, it means we're pressing and we're really aggressive with everything we do. When we have the ball, we're sprinting forward. And I sensed that wasn't happening. And then the data backs that up, where we got really passive. So what that means is that you're kind of allowing momentum to shift to the opposition in that moment. And what you're saying is that we'll weather that momentum and then finish strong. But we're not built that way. That's not how we play. So I don't have the exact stats, mate, but when they showed me the graph, fair to say there was some pretty market heartbeats in there, put it that way, where we didn't flatline, we went off.
When you show that to players in an analysis session, they've just got to swallow that.
Well, I mean, it's not up for debate, is it? Like, the only thing that's up for debate is why. Now, the players might turn around and say, well, we were tired, or we didn't feel like we could. Now, when it's if that's the last 15 minutes, okay, you're tired, I'll accept that. But when it's the first 20 minutes, that's a conscious decision made, right? Because we just come off half time. There shouldn't be a reason for it. So then you're trying to delve into the why. Why did we stop? And, I can give my summation and my assumptions around it. Players will do the same, and then we kind of find some common ground and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Gary.
Actually, you're probably not going to say what the player said, are you? Can we ask that?
I didn't ask for feedback, mate.
Can I just ask you back to Tom's question about the lead? A few years ago, there was an incident where Son and Hugo had a going together where there was a mistake and they had a confrontation at half-time, and they got a lot of sort of traction, but actually it was quite a sort of a good moment in a way. It was quite positive. And Arsenal had one last year with Zinchenko and Ben White. And can you change how players are as individuals? You were talking about this, the leaders, to kind of make them more talkers and to make them more sort of vocal on the pitch, and also more their actions mean more, because obviously Arteta also makes the point that actually galvanises the crowd. It's not just your team; it's that whole sort of atmosphere.
Yeah, look, and look, I think it's more commonplace than people may realise. A lot of it sort of happens, dressing rooms and stuff where players aren't afraid to sort of speak up, but I kind of sometimes think that's a bit of a shield for me. Like I said, leadership is action, is what you do in the heat of the action. Afterwards, it's easy to argue. It's easy for me to say, well, you should have done this, you should have done it. But in that moment is what you do. That's leadership, where the instincts are to kind of do something about it, but for some reason you don't, because you don't feel it's your place, or you don't feel confident enough, or you don't. That's leadership. And like I said, that comes now. Obviously, your more experienced players tend to feel more comfortable in that space, but you can't just wait for that. Like I said, what I'm trying to impress on the group is that they have the capacity within themselves to show that leadership, and you can change it. I think it's behaviour. It's not so much. I mean, the leadership where you want somebody to be vocal, that's hard to change because that's a personality trait, right? That's some people just don't. Like Romero's not a big talker, but he leads by example. And so I'm not going to change him and say, listen, because you got to speak more. Well, no, I'm not going to. It's like that's personality, character, but behaviour you can change. Because behaviour is action. So you say, okay, you're not going to talk, but you know what? Next time is a 50-50, go and win it. And that's going to inspire everyone, or, make sure that we're doing the disciplined things. Tell people to go and press. You go and press, and then they'll see you pressing. So that's where I think you can change it, and you can sort of, develop leaders.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Ron. Good job, mate. Haven't missed Anthony at all.
Anthony who?
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a deep squad.
I agree. Development everywhere.
Strength in depth.